order, sir. Can we do that without having a quorum?
I just confirmed once again, I apologize, the quorum number for a membership of 7 is 4. So we are good to go if we would like to move forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But at this point in time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And as I indicated, that I would, as opposed, I'm going to deviate from the minutes, the agenda in regards to roll call. From my understanding, we do not have public comment this evening. Is that right, Ms. Richards?
That is correct.
Okay. So at this point, we'd like to move on to approval of the minutes. If everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes, I would like to hear any conversation or a motion to approve.
This is Commissioner Ajayi. I noticed on page 2, there's it says Commissioners Smith, so that should obviously be Commissioner Smith, expressed a desire to ensure that the essay questions are, and then there's nothing following that. Other than that, I'm good with the minutes as presented.
Okay, can we get a second?
I didn't really make a motion, but I'd be happy to. I move that we accept the minutes as presented with the correction I noted.
I have some discussion, please. Ms. Richards, is there a way to find the remainder of that statement so that we can appropriately document this for archival purposes?
That statement was actually supposed to be omitted from the minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Any more discussion on the minutes?
No.
Okay, can we get a second on the approval?
I second that motion. Yeah, I second the motion.
Okay, the motion has been made and second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Commissioner
Although-
Smith, aye.
Commissioner Carey? Commissioner Carey, question for you. Are you in favor of approval of the minutes?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and Commissioner Jones, aye. The March meeting agenda minutes has been approved. So at this point, I'm going to deviate slightly from the agenda in the as opposed to roll call. I'm going to ask each commissioner, starting with Commissioner Kai, to introduce themselves to Deputy City Manager.
Commissioner Kai Ajayi.
Commissioner Carey.
I'm Commissioner Carey, Nisha Carey.
I am Commissioner Rhonda Smith, and I serve as the chair. It is good to get to talk with you again, Mr. Tyus.
And I'm Commissioner Jones. I'm Commissioner Smith's co-chair. First time meeting you. It's a pleasure. So at this point, we have on the agenda Q&A with Deputy City Manager. So I'd just like to turn it over to you, Deputy Manager.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to come here today to speak with you as a commission. I'm going to offer apologies, first of all, that it's taken this long to get here, frankly. It's been something that we've talked about and I've wanted to do. It hadn't happened. So I want to apologize for that. Thank you for the introductions. I've met some on the call. I've heard the names of others on the call. And so, again, I'm glad to be here. The first thing I want to say is that one of the things that I talked to Commissioner Ajayi and Chairperson Smith about is hopefully this is something that I can do regularly, I or the city manager. Nikki and I had talked about possibly quarterly. And so I would, if you will have me, I would like to be a part of the regular agenda just to allow you to ask questions and have me answer them when I can, or if I know the answers. And also really to just keep the dialogue going between administration and this commission. And so I am more than willing to do that. I know our city manager will be as well. And so hopefully that's something that we can do regularly. I really don't have a talk prepared. I more Q&A if that works for you. I will, if you don't mind, give a brief introduction. Again, I'm Billy Tyus, Deputy City Manager for the City of Bloomington. I've been here, wow, time flies, 2 years. In mid-February, it was 2 years. Born and raised in Decatur, Illinois, about 45 minutes south of here. My mom's still there. My family's still there. Sisters and brothers, obviously. I mean, not sisters and brothers, obviously, her sisters and brothers, obviously, and my dad's as well. My family is here, my wife, Mia, and we have 11-year-old twins, William and Simone, and they're in school here. And like I said, we're getting acclimated. I know that there were some questions submitted from some, I believe. If it would be okay, I can start to go through those, and then if you just jump in. This is a conversation. And so one of the questions that came about was what do you consider the 5 most urgent matters for the city of Bloomington to address? And these are in no particular order for me, at least. I think as a city government, we're responsible for infrastructure. So rebuilding the streets and infrastructure in this community, meaning streets and sidewalks and water mains and sewer mains and those kinds of things as well. And across the community, I think that's something that's a priority. Whether it's finding the money to pay for it, frankly, these are universal things for communities. I think recovering from the pandemic is going to be big for us as well. There were a lot of people who were hit hard. People lost jobs, people lost family members, people lost lives. And I think it's going to be hard. It's hard. It's going to be a challenge to come back for this. And I think from that. And so I think that's going to be one of the most urgent matters for us as a community. Another big one for me and for us as the administration is, I'll call it exposure and equity and access. And I say that because I know that it's one of your particular challenges and some of the work you do as a board, but really it's something that has to be on the radar of us as a city government. And what I mean is we have to make sure as a city government that we are creating a community environment where there's fairness, where there's also access to the opportunities that are here. That could be jobs, that could be school, that could be, you name it, really. I was on a call the other day where the chairperson of the John Scott Commission said, you can predict someone's life expectancy in McLean County if you know their zip code. Now, I think that's something that you kind of know, but it's jarring to hear it, that where someone is living in this community has that grave an impact on their life expectancy. And so we have to make sure that as a government, we're doing the work to eliminate the reasons for that, if that makes any sense to everybody. Like I said, what are the reasons for that? What are the gaps to employment? What are the gaps to people not being able to access the best schools in this community? What are the reasons for those things? I think we as a government can serve as a facilitator to fixing those things and serve as a connector between the areas where these are the issues and fixes for them. And again, I'm rambling a little bit, but I think that's one of the roles that we have to serve as a government, is making sure we're creating an environment where it's fair and where there is access across the board. One of the other things I'll say as a priority, let me back up a little bit. I talked a little bit about exposure. And what that means to me, at least, is when we talk about the possibilities that are here in Bloomington, Illinois, I believe a lot of times we can help to provide equal access to those things by providing exposure to them. And what I mean by that is really, I'm from Decatur, as I said, born and raised there. I never knew that city management was a possibility. I didn't know what a city manager was. Those weren't conversations that we sat down in my house and had conversations about. Now, I'm not knocking my family. I had a great family, great mom, great dad, but those weren't things that we talked about. When you talked about government, what I knew was the president. And so how do we eliminate the barriers to these things that should be available to all of us as careers or as opportunities? And I think we as a city government can help in eliminating some of those things. It's one of the reasons that Ms. Richards was promoted to help with some of the community outreach, to expose some of these things and also address some of the issues. It's one of the reasons that Michael Hurt, the position was created for diversity and inclusion, chief diversity and inclusion manager, to try and address some of these items. I don't know if that was 5, but those are big deals to us, frankly. And on the last one, especially, I don't expect, it has to be more than us talking about it. There has to be action behind it. We have to proverbially put our money where our mouth is and make sure that we're doing the things to address some of those issues. One of the questions was, what are a few of the positives about the city of Bloomington? Again, I spoke to a little bit. I think there are a lot of opportunities here. There are jobs and there are careers. There are highly rated schools. There's higher education, both at the community college level and at the traditional college level. There were almost 1,000 jobs posted in the last 14 days on Indeed.com, just taking a look. The city is hiring. Those opportunities are there. Again, back to the point I was making earlier, we just have to make sure that we're eliminating the barriers to people having access to those opportunities, whatever those are. I think it's one of the positives is that people are doing things here. Last year, there was more than $260 million in new or continued development in this community. Again, that's a big number. There are cities that would do almost anything to have that, and that was happening here. And I think that says, again, a lot about this community. So they're positives, but again, we got to make sure that we're providing access to. We have to make sure that everyone is benefiting from that. I'll say it that way. One of the questions was, what would you say are a couple of negative factors regarding the city of Bloomington? And I'm trying to figure out how to say this. There seems to, at least from my from my experience, a diversity of participation. And what I mean there is that if you don't have all of the voices at the table when decisions are being made, you're going to get the same decisions made. And so one of the things that I've seen is that there don't seem to be, in a lot of cases, there's not a lot of diversity where these decisions are being made. Now, I don't think it's intentional. I don't think there's some movement to keep people of certain background or color out of the room, but for whatever reason, it's not happening. It's one of the things that strikes me is that, I'll go to a meeting or I'll go to a presentation about some big initiative, and I'll be like the only person of color at the meeting, or I run into Commissioner Jai at one or two, I believe, as well. There's a limited number of faces, and it's often the same faces. I don't know why that is, but I think that it's something that we have to address if we're going to make sure that we're making decisions for all, if that makes sense to everyone. Again, I don't think that's an intentional thing. I really, really don't. There's just a divide there for whatever reason. And I think we need to wrap our minds around how we address it. So yeah, to me, those are the questions that I received. I'm excited to be in this community. I am. I'm hopeful that we will be able to work more closely with you as a commission and do the all important work of making sure that there's fairness here. You know, I don't think that diversity and inclusion and equity is something where you can ever say we've made it, or I don't think it's anything where you can ever say we've done enough or we're good, because it's ever changing. And we can't ever sit back and talk about, hey, look at us, look at what we've done. But I do think it's important to let people know that we are trying to do some things in order to make things better here. I talked earlier about the position for Michael Hurt, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Manager, promotion of Nikki. And again, they will be doing work to create a more fair playing field. They will be doing work both focusing internally on our organization, but also externally in the community. You know, I think that if we want to profess to be a great place to work, and I think we are, like, I love where I work, don't get me wrong, I do. But we have to continuously make sure that our environment is one that is encouraging to all people to work there. You know, it's one of the reasons that when Michael came on board, he may have already talked about some of this stuff, but you know, one of the first things he did was to create an internal anonymous reporting line for persons who feel like they've been discriminated against. I think that's a big deal. It's completely anonymous. It's an outside agency where people can call. The number's not registered. None of the data is kept, but it hopefully gives our employees a feeling that, hey, we're going to be heard. We are going to be heard. One of the things that he's doing is undertaking an internal cultural assessment with the U of I for the city of Bloomington to make sure, again, that our culture is one that is supportive of all people. One of the reasons that that position, frankly, was placed in the admin suite reporting directly to the city manager is because we needed our organization to understand the importance of it. A lot of cities say, yeah, this is important to us, but then they tuck that position somewhere further in the organization. Our city manager made it a point to make sure it was in the admin suite and part of the administrative department so that our directors and others knew that it mattered. It mattered. So one of the things that I spoke about earlier was Nikki is leading an initiative with the Jewel Foundation, where we're working with the foundation to provide a mentorship program. And it's one that started as a pilot program last year, started small, but this year we have expanded that program significantly to where we are providing mentorship and paid employment opportunities to young, underrepresented, and often young people of color, mostly young people of color, to work in city government during the summer. And so I think we had 4 or 5 positions last year. This year, I believe we're going to have 20 plus. And so again, it's us working to really try to, again, put our money where our mouth is and show and make sure that we're exposing people and providing all people with these opportunities who maybe traditionally haven't had them. And the final thing is, again, perhaps small, but the council moving forward with wanting to expand Juneteenth, which I know you as a commission are working on to make bigger and better. And again, Indigenous Peoples Day. They're things that we're trying to do. We are doing to try and move the needle on making sure that this is a fairer and more representative community. And so, I talked a lot, I rambled on, and I apologize for that, but I'll take any questions that you may have of me. Again, hopefully this is the first of many times that I'll be able to come forward and we can talk. So thank you. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them as best I can.
This is Commissioner Carey, Nisha Carey, and I would like to share with you that my passion is to work with people with disabilities because I have worked with LifeStill and Conan through LifeStill, and I would like to do anything I can to help anybody make Bloomington more accessible for people with disabilities.
I think it's a great point. When you talk about diversity, it doesn't just, you're right. It's a great point. It doesn't simply relate to race or ethnicity or male, female. You're right. Persons with disabilities are a key component of that. And, you know, it's one of the things that I've talked to Conan on several occasions. And, you know, there's work to be done to make this community more accessible. You know, it's one of the reasons that, that we're making the investment we are on sidewalks. I think we're doing $1 million+ a year on sidewalk improvements. And again, I don't say that to say, hey, look at us, this is enough. It's because it's not. But we can do more and we will do more. But to your point, you're right, we have to do the things to make sure that we are more accessible for persons with disabilities.
And if you have a moment, I would like to share something else with you. My name again is Nisha Carey, and I was able to make three buildings more accessible for people in wheelchairs, and one in Bloomington and two in Normal. And I called and spoke with the building commissioners or building people in Bloomington and Normal and helped get 3 buildings more accessible. So I would like to help in any way I can to make the city of Bloomington more accessible, because that is my passion. If I can help in any way to make the city more accessible for people with disabilities, and I can put a smile on a person's face with a disability, then that's my passion. So I'm here to help in any way I can.
Thank you, and we will take you up on that, frankly. I think that's important. When I talked about having people at the table, it's people with a passion for certain things that we need. And so, no, I appreciate that. And we will for sure take you up on that.
Okay.
Good. Anyone else have any Q&A for this evening?
Mr. Tyus, I really appreciate your candor and your willingness to join us and answer the questions that were put before you. I'm glad that you recognize there's work to be done and understand that this commission is ready, willing, and able to partner with you to make real and lasting change for people in this community. So thank you again.
And thank you again from me.
Yeah, no problem. And one of the things I shared with you, Commissioner Jai, is we won't always get it right. We won't. But hopefully we will be able to work together to, when we do misstep, to course correct and make things right. I also, one of the things I've talked to you about is, in others is, let us know, hold us accountable. That matters. And so, I appreciate your willingness to work together with us.
Okay, with that, I'd like to give you my thanks also. Some of those questions were some that I submitted, and you answered those thoroughly, and I certainly appreciate the thought and the thoroughness that you put into those responses there.
Appreciate it. Really do. Really do. Look forward to meeting you in person.
Same here.
Thanks for coming out.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Joining the meeting.
Not a problem.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to move forward with the agenda. Deputy City Manager, okay, he's already there. I was about to say you're welcome to stay, but if you like to depart, we totally understand.
Thank you very much. I'll sit in for a little bit.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the update on the Black History Essay Contest, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Richards.
All right, so we have arrived. It looks like we moved pretty fast with this initiative, but we got it done. I'm super excited to note that we are under budget in regards to the monies that were spent for both trophies, prizes, and overhead and so forth. So I wanted to give a brief report on, I'm sorry, it looks like there's an echo. I apologize. Commissioner Jones, would you mind going? Thank you. The trophies were purchased from B&B Awards, for which the city has done business with for several years, and they came in at $76.50 each, totaling $382.50. The first prize award, or I'm sorry, first prize gift was a set of Beats by Dre. They were wireless. They were purchased from Best Buy for $169. And there were 4 Visa gift cards that were purchased for the second place winners at, again, $50 each, totaling $219.76, which included not tax, but the cost of the cards themselves. So with that, we came out at $771.26, which is under the $1,000 limit that, or donation amount that was provided by HRC. We are so excited to be able to come under budget, but to have that monies provided by the Human Relations Commission. So thank you so very much to all of you for voting to support this effort in that way. We had 9 essay submissions that were received, including some that did not meet qualifications due to being out of the residency limit. We also had 1 submission that did not meet the criteria simply because they did not submit an essay. However, we did have several amazing submissions. And I want to give a special thanks to our community judges, Olivia Butts of Black Lives Matter, Kylie Black and Taylor Slave of the Normal Community High School Black Student Union, Bloomington's HRC Commissioner Kaya Jahi, and Willie Holton Halbert, as well as Dr. Carla Campbell Jackson of the Bloomington Normal NAACP for reading and scoring our submissions. These generous participants, community members took time out of their schedules to go through each essay thoroughly and provide their feedback. So I was really happy to have their support in this effort as well. Another special thank you goes to Commissioner Tony Jones for designing the promotional flyer and completing the photography for our essay winners. Again, thank you so very much. This commission, I made an ask and you all stepped up and it really helped in a great way. So I appreciate that so much. We have 5 winners. 2 are tied for second place in the elementary category. Then there is 1 first place winner and 2 tied for second place in the high school category. Announcements and promotion for the winners begin tomorrow with a special presentation by City Manager Gleason, who was more than thrilled to participate and go through these essays and make special comments in his announcements about each one. He was, again, just extremely supportive and was very proud of these young people. We also will have website, social media, and press promotion beginning tomorrow as well. Winners will go on air with WGLT next week, and there will also be articles published about their accomplishments on WGLT and with the Pantograph. Awards and prizes will also be distributed tomorrow as well. So again, I just want to thank this commission for your full support in a number of ways. And here we are looking to make this bigger and better for next year. And I just am excited about it. Any questions, I'll be more than willing to answer them at this time.
Sounds like that. This is Commissioner Smith. Your update was wonderful, and it sounds like the event was executed very well. I do have a couple of questions. So this was known as an inaugural event, is that correct?
Yes.
So is there any thought into, it appeared to me as if the window of time for the students to submit their essays was a little short. Any consideration as you look forward to doing this again to expanding that window?
Absolutely. And I won't go into reasons why the window was short. I do acknowledge that short window, but absolutely next year, we will certainly provide more time for students to submit their essays. And by next year, this will be a known City of Bloomington effort, which will then include more promotion and hopefully more community buy-in.
Could you repeat that? You said it will be a City of Bloomington?
City of Bloomington, an HRC event, annual event.
Okay.
And we're hoping, again, with more promotion will come more community buy-in and hopefully more student participation.
Okay, is there anything else on that particular topic before we move on? Okay, once again, I'd like to express gratitude to Ms. Richards on just running with that and executing it fully. The next item that we have on the agenda is item C, prioritization of the HRC awareness plan update. And with that particular item, I'll turn that over to Chairperson Smith and Ms. Richards.
Yeah, so last HRC meeting, which was February, we left with a subcommittee that had a task to review or work through some items on the awareness plan, which is centered around basically helping the community to know that we exist and the things that we can bring about in the community. Our sole purpose for existing in the community, that we're not some unknown commission, which appears that we now want to, it sounds like. We want to broaden the awareness of our existence and be about the business of the ordinance within the community. And so we met, the subcommittee met, and we went through all of the items on the prioritization, on the list to prioritize them. And we did come up with a tentative list, and we will present those in our April meeting and talk through them with you, with the commission, to see if we can arrive at a consensus on working on those items. There are plenty of things on there, but we want to focus on the ones that we thought were of the utmost importance and would really likely create a bigger impact much sooner than some of the other items on the list. So again, looking forward to April to bring those in front of you and to get the commissioner's thoughts and hopefully get some support to begin immediately moving forward on those items. That's the update on that prioritization work. Thanks to the subcommittee who met and spent time doing some elbow work on that. So any questions? Thank you. Pivoting back to you, Commissioner Jones.
Hey, thank you very much. The next item that we have on the agenda is item D, the 2021 Juneteenth update. And as an action item from the last meeting, Commissioner Kai and myself, we were to serve as, well, we are the liaisons between the commission and the Bloomington Normal Black History Project. And we did have an opportunity to meet with the group twice. And there were several decisions made, and I just wanted to give you a recap, particularly on those that are I guess, the most priority. One decision that was made so far as what approach, so far as the format, would it be in person or would it be virtual? And the decision was made that just due to what's reasonable at this point in time, we're going to take a virtual route. We did describe something that we called a hybrid, but in essence, it's a virtual. It will be not an event in which we'll be have a traditional type of event where there's going to be food and all of that type of thing there. So one thing that I'd like to inform you, Ms. Richards, is that so far as you had reserved the BCPA lawn, so that is something that we definitely can release. There was some conversation about the Miller Park Pavilion and stage area, because as I mentioned, we talked about this concept of a virtual hybrid. So we haven't determined the details of this, it's just more of a concept, but we would like to hang on to the Miller Park facilities for the time being. We might be able to brainstorm some technique in which we can broadcast part of it or whatever, but anyway, we haven't determined the particulars, but we would like to hang on that for a little bit longer. And then we also mapped the direction of the planning to the document of understanding. So there's some planning activity that's going on that the Juneteenth planning group is basically doing some homework on, and we're going to come back together to start to move forward with the planning of the actual event itself. As we stress with the group, and they are in agreement that education is one of the primary objectives that we're trying to achieve with the Juneteenth event, that it's not just an event in which there's going to be balloons and partying and all of that, but we're very intentional about injecting a message and steering them towards just gaining that enhancement, using this as an opportunity to not only just promote Juneteenth, but also to inject some opportunities to provide knowledge to the members of the community that we feel that is lacking at this point in time. So we're trying to fill some gaps. At this point, I'd like to turn over to Commissioner Kai to have an opportunity to add on to what I said. I'm pretty sure I missed some details.
I think you did a good job of summarizing the work to date. Thank you.
Okay. And as I indicated, that we will be planning another meeting with that committee very soon. We just want to get the ball rolling with that. Are there any questions from anyone at this point?
Commissioner Jones, I do have a question.
Sure.
In regards to the, there was follow-up that Commissioner Ajayi wanted me to engage or bring back to the commission after speaking with corporate counsel relating to contract language and so forth. So I wanted to provide an update about that and then see if it still applies, considering that the committee, Juneteenth Planning Committee, is now leaning towards a more virtual event. So that feedback after speaking with corporate counsel, Jeff Jurgens, was that at this time we have not conducted or created any new entertainment contracts since COVID-19's pandemic. However, moving forward, the simple answer is yes, we could construct a contract that has language that would provide more protections for us in terms of being able to not be penalized or held financially accountable if in fact we should have to release a vendor or cancel due to COVID-19 pandemic concerns. So, and if we do decide to move forward with booking any entertainment for this event, that we would work with the contract administrator, who is at this time Josh Austin. And so just wanted to make sure I provided that feedback as you move forward. And then another question, instead of an update, would be, at what point would you like me to make adjustments to the budget that I presented, or the expense list that I provided to the commission last month?
Sure. And let me respond to that by asking you a question, if this is something that's workable for you. The committee, Juneteenth committee, is going to put together a skeleton outline of the program itself, and that would probably provide you some more realistic financials so far as anticipated expenses. So we'll be having that meeting very shortly. So would that time frame or would that approach work for you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, before we move on, there is one particular item that was up for discussion, that was discussed during the last meeting, and it was to determine whether or not the NAACP had an interest in participating in the Juneteenth planning. And the answer is no. They've been approached so far as it was explained to them that it was perceived that potentially they might have had an interest, and they indicated that they're supportive of the event, but they will maintain their role of just being an organization that supports Juneteenth, but do not have an appetite at this point in time to be part of the actual planning group.
Commissioner Jones, this is Commissioner Smith. I have a question.
Sure.
Ms. Richards. Last month, we discussed a couple locations that potentially we would be able to utilize. And I don't know, there was something swirling around about the EPA lawn. Did we tentatively have something on reserve for them?
So Commissioner Jones did speak to that this evening. Yes, we had 3 locations tentatively. So there was the BCPA lawn, there was the Miller Park Pavilion, and then there was also the Miller Park Bandstand. And Commissioner Jones, correct me if I'm wrong, your feedback was that the planning committee decided to release the BCPA lawn, but you're still interested in the Miller Park Bandstand area, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so am I also allowed to release the pavilion?
At this point in time, if it's possible for you to pause on releasing the pavilion,
Okay,
thank you.
and so Commissioner Smith, yes, we had all those 3 locations tentatively secured, depending upon what the planning committee wanted to move forward with. But looks like we'll just hold on to the 2 Miller Park locations for now.
Okay, that answers my question about the BCPA. Did we discuss a date in which we had to hold firm or release before being charged with Miller Park?
The feedback was that we would have an answer by March, by this meeting. And so there's no, there has not been a cost associated with this hold for Miller Park at this time. So we're good to go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any additional questions or inquiries before we leave this topic?
None here.
Okay, so I'm just going to say it's safe to move forward. The next item that we have is item E, completion of statement of economic interest. The deadline for that is May 1st.
Yeah, it is May 1st. This is Commissioner Smith again, and ask for that to be put on the agenda. Just encouraging all the commissioners, if you have not already completed it, please complete it. The sooner the better. Each year there's been a commissioner who unintentionally failed to get it submitted, and there's fees that are charged to the city when we forget to submit it. So earlier the better. So be the early bird. Thanks.
Question, is it possible to obtain a naughty list so that a reminder could be sent to those individuals from city staff so that they have awareness that they've not completed that obligation or task?
I believe that in Ms. Richards' role, she will have awareness of that.
Yes, I can receive that information from the clerk's office and send that naughty list out with lots of reminders.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jones, were you saying you wanted all the commissioners to know, to have insight on that list, or did you just want Ms. Richards to know so that she could nudge the person or people who have not completed it? What is your ask?
Yeah, my thought was that those that needed to have that information to be nudged, but not necessary for the entire commission.
Thank you for the clarity.
Mhm. Okay, anything else on that topic? Okay, if not, moving on to item F on the agenda, vote to draft a welcoming city ordinance statement of support. At the last meeting, there was conversations about that particular topic, and it was decided that we will wait until this meeting to give commissioners opportunity to digest the information and then come back at this meeting to vote on the topic on whether or not to draft a welcome city ordinance statement of support. So here we are at this point. I know we don't have all of the commissioners that were part of that conversation last month, but based upon those that are present, just like to hear thoughts, comments.
I give approval.
Thanks, Commissioner Carey. This is Commissioner Ajayi. I think we've had discussion on this topic. We've had time to review the information that was passed around. So I think at this point, I'm comfortable advancing a motion that we proceed with drafting a welcoming city ordinance statement of support.
I make a motion that we make a draft of the, I'm not very good at this.
For clarity, I believe Commissioner Ajayi made the motion. Do I hear
Oh.
that Commissioner Carey, you're trying to second that? Is that correct?
No. I wanted to, I'll second the motion. I don't know who, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, not a problem.
It's okay, Commissioner Carey. I made the motion and I'm glad to have you as a second.
Okay, the motion has been made. The motion has been made and properly second to move forward with a draft being created of support statement for the welcoming city ordinance. All those in, well, Commissioner Kai, your vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Carey?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Before I vote, I had a question. I don't think you saw me.
Oh, I'm
But-
sorry.
My vote is aye, but I'll get the question later. Sorry.
Okay. And Commissioner Jones, aye. And circling back to you, Commissioner Smith, with your question?
So previously, when Mr. Hurt was serving as a liaison for the HRC, he took the initiative to draft a letter, statement of support. Are we assuming, because we haven't asked Ms. Richards to write that, so are we assuming, because we voted for this, that she will take the initiative for us to draft this? Or will we, as a commission, own the crafting of this statement of support that we voted on?
Yeah, so staff person Richards, what is your response to that? Would it be a
Before you-
task?
Before you speak, Ms. Richards, my understanding is the forwarder of the motion was that a group of commissioners, with the help of staff, would draft the language for presentation to the commission next month.
Thank you, Commissioner Ajayi. That was my understanding as well. And I just wanted to clarify, I believe when we were having these discussions, it was mentioned that Mr. Hurt's statement was in response to the the murder of George Floyd and our response as a governing body. So it wasn't pertaining to the ordinance, the welcoming city ordinance.
Yes, that's correct. So the confusion was on the part of a couple commissioners who thought that something had already been drafted. And so I thought at the end of the meeting, there was clarity around that. No, the commission had not even voted on this particular statement. And then that's when it was brought to light on earth that they weren't quite sure about the welcoming ordinance. So they wanted some time to better educate themselves on it.
Yeah, and to add more clarity on what was confusing, it was mentioned that the support statement that was in response to the George Floyd situation in June lived or existed on our web page. And I think they were interpreting that as a existing document for the welcoming city ordinance being on our webpage. But that was only a reference to them, as that was an early example of what was done in the past.
And so to sum this up, I am more than happy to support the commission and assist as this draft statement is being created. And so I think that because this is something that the commission has voted or has decided to support as a whole, it would make sense to have the commission draft the statement, and I'm more than willing to review and add suggestions and provide my feedback as a staff liaison. So that's my piece on that.
Okay, so at this point, I think it's appropriate for conversation on who would like to be part of the initial draft effort.
I'll volunteer. Commissioner
Okay.
Ajayi.
And anyone else would like to partner? Okay, Commissioner Kai, with whatever your comfort level is, just strive that task as you see fit. Work with Ms. Richards, and then you'll have something whenever it's ready to bring to the commission to react to.
I would like to state that I believe that we should put a time limit on this statement, considering so much time has passed. There's been lots of discussion. And if we're going to move forward, I would like to see that we have something within the next few weeks. Again, I'm just concerned about the amount of time that has passed, and I don't want this statement of support to be seen as an afterthought.
I'm fine with that timeline, Ms. Richard. Do you envision us working on it and then perhaps getting something to the commission ahead of the next meeting so they would have had time to review and contemplate so we could come into the next meeting, vote, and be done with it?
Absolutely. Sounds great.
That works for me.
Okay, sounds like we have a plan. So that's a wonderful thing. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item G, which is a discussion regarding, I remember this one. Discussion regarding meeting with the town of Normal HRC to plan the 2022 MLK Awards and Racial Equity Summit.
All right, I'll go ahead and take a stab at this one. So there was several attempts to reach out to the town of Normal to provide just a bit more clarity as to what their idea of partnering and planning looked like and what their contributions would be as we move forward to plan for the 2022 Martin Luther King Jr. Award Ceremony and the Racial Justice Summit. I provided some of their input, the input that I received from Chair Janessa Williams in a previous communication, but I'll just read down some of the feedback now. And I can't honestly say that my inquiry was answered in completion, but hopefully this feedback will provide us with some direction. Chair Williams stated that she would like to see that she had some questions on who should we as a committee, a planning committee, continue to work with. She has some questions about whether or not we should have a community speaker for the MLK event, questions on where we should have the event, whether we should integrate and create a hybrid event to have part virtual and part in-person ceremonies in order to reach a larger audience with virtual options and the ability to watch from the comfort of someone's own home or space. She had some questions about how that included cost considerations, whether or not we wanted to have full meals or hors d'oeuvres if we were to have this hybrid event. She had some collaboration concerns as it relates to the Social Equity Summit. And she mentioned that they would like to have the Social Equity Summit in October of this year. And then she also mentioned that she wanted to work perhaps with some film club or a book club to discuss movies pertaining to social equity. So again, I don't believe that this feedback answered our inquiry in totality, but I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you all, and am willing to, I have reached out for more clarity and have not received that at this time, but I will continue to share with you whatever input Normal provides to me concerning this.
Yeah, one question that I have for you, or maybe it's something to investigate, and I think Chairperson Smith was alluding to this last meeting, if the town of Normal have a counterpart on their staff to your role, we were just wondering if that was an opportunity to have conversation or dialogue. And I don't want to put words in Chairperson Smith's mouth, but what are your thoughts to that, Commissioner Smith?
And before, I apologize, I want to just interject for a moment. There is a counterpart. I did reach out to both Chair Williams and my counterpart, which is Jason in the town of Normal. And this is the response that I received.
Okay, commissioners, any reaction to what you just heard?
Commissioner Jones, what was, and Ms. Richards, do you remember the suggested meeting date that was proposed from the town of Normal?
There was no suggested meeting date. In fact, they were hoping that we could come up with a date and see if they were available, but there was no suggested meeting date on their part. So perhaps this would be a good time for maybe us to throw out some dates and times that we could bring them into a meeting or, you know, to meet with them separately.
So I think we're all, well, let me just speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for the entire commission. My calendar is pretty full. So it would work really well if we could carve out some time in either one of our standing meetings, or maybe if we could have 15 minutes in their meeting, but I'm not really in favor, me speaking, Commissioner Smith, doing an ad hoc meeting to discuss this, but let's just open it up to see what the other commissioners think.
Commissioner Smith, well, what you just mentioned so far is like an add-on meeting. That's kind of the approach that had been taken for several years in the past when there was a partnership in which it would be an extended meeting, but typically it would be like earlier. Yeah, typically it was always early, not after the regular business meeting.
Correct. But that was when the partnership was fully established and nothing had changed, right? Currently,
right,
we don't have a partnership. So I guess I'm just trying to better understand and get a level set with what it is before we start adding meetings. But again, that was from my perspective. If the commission chooses to want to, you know, have a full-blown meeting, the consensus is what that is.
This is Commissioner Carey, and I would just like to say that I don't know what I can do, but I would be willing to help with anything. Someone just needs to give me a call or let me know what I could do to help, because I want to help in any way I can.
Yeah, thank you very much, Commissioner Carey. That's very much appreciated. A thought that I had was to focus on the MLK event so far as putting together our plan and have a meeting to, if there is a meeting, to get some questions answered so far as, you know, what is, because the questions, one of the questions that we fundamentally have every year is, are they able to participate financially to the event, or with their interest to be like it's been done in the past couple of years, in which they show up and present a couple of awards. All of the additional items that was mentioned, I think those would probably be too many topics to be effective for a meeting. But one of the things that we traditionally know that we have a MLK event to be executed, and there are some things, preliminary things that needs to be put in place to that. And the earlier that we determine what their level of interest is so far as participation, I think that would be helpful. But those are just my thoughts. Others, do we have any thoughts for next actions?
Commissioner Jones, would you like me to reach out to the town of Normal, Commissioner Jones and Chair Smith, would you like me to reach out to the town of Normal to invite them to our an upcoming meeting, whether that be I know that our April agenda is filling up, but perhaps we could carve out 15, 20 minutes for clarity if they were to come in and meet with us, or if you would like to have them come in on the May meeting and meet with us for a little longer, I'm more than willing to reach out and schedule that.
Ms. Richards, yeah, I would say the sooner the better if we could find time on the April meeting agenda, that would be better. Because I know we talked about this in February and I don't want to keep delaying it, right? So it would be best if we just run it in a corner and meet with them the sooner the better and have this discussion so that we could move forward. That's my perspective.
And to piggyback on that, Chairperson Smith, do you think it would be beneficial if we have a couple of questions to provide them in advance so they can come prepared? And when I said a couple of questions, I mean, like, one of the questions is, would they be able to financially participate this year, and whatever else would be relevant? Just some initial thoughts, just so that they'll be prepared to answer certain questions, as opposed to say, oh, well, we have to go back and find out. That was just kind of my concern.
Great. Yeah, I do want to time slot this agenda, specifically April, Ms. Richards, because of the amount of information that we're going to try to cover. I know we have Dr. Houston coming. We're going to talk about the prioritization of the awareness activities for the HRC. And this topic with the time of normal could easily go beyond the expected time. So
Will do. Are we thinking 15, 20 minutes, Chair Smith?
I am, again, my perspective would be 15 minutes, I guess. I don't see a need from my perspective to get into the weeds on all of the things that they sent back in the email, right? It's just to level set. Are we expecting to return to function in the way that we were before? Do you have a skeleton framework of what you would like to partner with us moving forward, provided there is some type of funding?
Will do. I'll get that meeting scheduled.
Okay. Anything else on that before we move on to old business? Okay. Moving down the agenda to old business. Item A is discussion regarding second police reform forum.
Was that mine?
I believe Deputy City Manager waved his hand.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I was just going to tell you that I needed to leave, but thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
All righty.
Thank you, Billy.
Okay, so Chairperson Smith, you were asking if that was your item?
No. If that was is Commissioner Ajayi still on the call?
I am indeed.
I'm sorry. Did he say something?
Check 1, 2, check 1, 2.
Oh, okay. I can hear you now. Do you recall this conversation? I don't want us to pass it by. Or did we leave it on by mistake?
No, I do recall the conversation. I remember there was some agnosticism about the issue. There was some who felt that we needed to loop in the mayor, whether it was appropriate for us to do this sort of thing without talking to the mayor again. And the position that I held, and we were still supposed to vote on, was whether or not we wanted to continue to have this discussion in the community, a discussion headed by this commission or not. That's where we were, as I recall.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I recall too.
Well, thank you.
I'll restate what I said before, that I was disappointed with the turnout at the first one, both in terms of the panelists and the number of people who were there in person. I know there was a COVID issue, And there were quite a few people who were online. But I was more disappointed in the panelists who turned up. And my recommendation was that if we were going to do this again, that we try our hardest to get the primary players at the table, the mayors of both cities, the police commissioner, chiefs of police. And I know in Normal that's going to be difficult in Bloomington because we don't have one. So I don't know. I think there are still interested parties that we could try to get to the table, and maybe that's the first step to try to see if we can get interested parties to come to the table. I know there's an election coming up soon. We may not be able to move fast enough in order to have this discussion before the election. So this may actually be a moot point as I talk through it.
April 6th. Yeah.
Yeah, and just some thoughts from Commissioner Jones. What you just mentioned there, that might open up a different type of opportunity. After the elections, there's going to be some role changes, so that might be an opportunity to get some thoughts from some fresh perspectives, I guess.
So I guess I'll move that we table this discussion until, at the very least, after the municipal elections.
Absolutely.
Can I get a
I think
second?
we've been,
I second it.
I'm sorry, Chair Jones, you were going to say something. Chair Smith, you were going to say something?
yeah, I was just going to say that I think it would have been extremely valuable to have it before the election, right? Maybe it would have helped prick some ears on, well, I was leaning one way with the vote, but now after hearing this conversation, healthy conversation, I'm now more inclined to vote another way. But yeah, we're too close to April 6th, but sure. I'm in favor of your motion.
Okay, am I unmuted? Yeah, so we have a motion to table this item until a later date. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Ajayi, aye.
Commissioner Smith, aye.
Commissioner Jones, aye. So motion passed to table this item until a later date. Okay, there's one more item on the agenda, new business. Item A, coordinate City of Bloomington Board and Commission info series. And this is an item that I submitted, and it is a spinoff of the meeting that we had to prioritize the Bloomington Human Relations Commission's awareness plan. And just to explain what's the label of what's being described here, the thought was to host a series of meetings online, of course, in which representatives from some of not all commissions, but some commissions within the city in which representatives are there to explain the purpose and objectives of those commissions, how they operate, and some Q&A. And that thought was originally came to mind when I was thinking of that would be something that the HRC could do, but I thought that it would even be more value to the community if some of the additional commissions were part of such a series. And I indicated series because I'm not getting into the weeds, but my thought was just to have representatives just from perhaps no more than 3 or 4 per session. So that was just the seed of an idea or a concept that I would just bring out to the commission to share today, just for your reactions to that. Feel free to beat it up and say it's a dumb idea or whatever, but it was just a thought that I had that I wanted to share with the commission. Any reactions or any questions so far as to get more clarity of what I'm talking about here?
Commissioner Jones, this is Commissioner Smith. My question, first question is, when you say series, are you indicating, I'm trying to visualize this, would that be multiple sessions from, for example, the HRC, multiple sessions being hosted by the Planning Commission? Or
yeah.
then one session for each commission?
Yeah, I see where you're going, and that's a great question. No, so for each commission, it'll be one and done, but I've looked at the list of commissions that might be relevant. So certainly you couldn't accomplish all of them in one session. So when I say series, I was visualizing that there'll probably be 3 sessions, if you have 3 commissions each series. So HRC would only participate in one of those series. What is it called? The Downtown Beautification Commission, they would be in a separate one. So each commission that participate would only do it one time.
Okay. So this kind of reminds me of modeling the Get to Know the City Government, where they put on a series of meetings to help educate those that signed up to learn more about the Bloomington City Government. Is that what this is kind of modeled after?
Coincidental.
Okay.
Yeah, because with that series, do they ever pull in the HRC? I don't ever recall HRC being pulled into that Get to Know Your Government. No. Okay. Yeah, and just to reiterate, the objectives or what this is in the spirit of our awareness of the HRC. So it was just kind of like, well, if we're doing this for us, it might be the concept might be a benefit for some additional commissions. So like I say, feel free to kill it. I just was sharing it.
Okay. Thoughts from, you're leading the meeting. I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones.
No, I want you, I'm your backup. You're leading the meeting.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Carey.
I wasn't going to say nothing.
Okay. My first reaction is who gets to make the call on which commission is considered, worthy of participating in this series, number one. Number two, I don't think we can make any decisions for other commissions. We have to reach out to them and ask them if they thought this was a good idea. And then number three, we need to publicize this in such a way that folks who are interested in learning what each commission did would have enough time to plan to attend the meetings. And then finally, it would make sense to me for this to be reciprocal. And what I mean by that is if we identify 5 commissions that are going to be part of this discussion, then it would seem that it should be every one of those commission meetings should have a representative from the other 4 commissions, so that it's not everybody coming to the HRC to speak. It's an HRC person goes to Commission 1, as do the 3 others. We all speak at this commission's meeting, and then the 4 new representatives go to the second commission's meeting, and so on, so that every commission has a chance to hear from everybody, and that way it seems fair, and it's just not a one and done as was suggested earlier. Thank you.
Yeah, so excellent information or excellent statements there. And I'm jokingly saying you've basically planned the entire activity, but to respond to some of those questions, yes, it would be something in which it would be an ask or basically an invitation to determine if those other commissions have an interest. It wouldn't be like a dictated type thing, just basically being the catalyst to develop something along these lines. So of course there would be conversations to determine who would be interested in all of that. And also the invitation to commissions to determine which ones would participate. I think that's a detail that could be figured out. And some, due to the nature of the structure of some of those commissions, that would also be a factor. Some of those commissions only meet twice a year. So those are different factors in part of those decisions there. And that's a wonderful idea so far as what you just stated, so far as representatives from the different commissions would basically attend meetings of those other commissions there. So definitely some details to be worked out there, but from a concept level, yes, it would be something in which the other commissions would be invited to, or conversation with them to see if that would be something of mutual interest to them as well. So I just kind of see the HRC being a catalyst, but not necessarily being the dictator of something of this nature. And as I indicate there, the primary driver of this was to help increase awareness of the HRC. So the conversation that we had earlier in the week with the HRC plan items, that was kind of what sparked the thought or ideal. So not really was something that I was seeking an action item on, really wanted to get the feedback from the commissioners and determine whether or not commissioners felt it was worthy to pursue to the next step to pursue it, or if it should die on the vine.
So you're
Yes.
not for a motion tonight, you were just vetting it?
Yeah, so what I was about to say, if I could get a vote on die on the vine or to let it get consideration to move forward. And to move forward would be basically dialogue with other commissions to see if this would be something that they would have an interest in participating in.
So do you need a motion to just have conversation to determine if there's interest? Because you're not really taking any action on behalf of the commission, you're just having conversation as a person of the community.
Yeah, and what I was really trying to get was a vote from the commission on whether you think it's I'm joking sometimes when I use certain terminology, vote on whether you think it's something that we should think it's a dumb idea or something, to get additional feedback from the other commissioners to see if there's interest. So what you just stated, Commissioner Smith, is that if we're having dialogue with other commissions, that's not really anything that's taking action, but I just wanted to determine whether or not you think we should just not do that at all.
Well, sorry, this is Women's History Month, so I'm so sorry. I'm just jumping in front of everybody. But I think from my perspective, based on what Commissioner Ajayi said and what I'm trying to articulate is, I was assuming that you were vetting this, and based on the feedback that has shared, you take that and integrate it into what you've shared and come back with a stronger framework. It could be voted on then. You'd have more to share. You'd be able to say that you have spoken to these commission and boards, and they are on board with, they are supported participating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense there. And I misused the word earlier. When I said voting, that's when I shouldn't have used that word there. So we're on the same page.
Thoughts from other commissioners, though? Again, those were my thoughts.
I'm on the same page.
So I gave my response to the specifics of the proposal as it was presented. And as I think of it more in terms of a big picture, the commissions and their roles should be already well thought out, written out, presented on their websites, in the ordinances that produce them, and so on. And I just wonder what the public interest would be in coming to hear from the commissioners what they do and how they do it. Because folks, look at our public comment gallery right now, and how it's been since I've been a commissioner. It's been pretty much empty. So I don't think this is a method to garner additional support for our commissions or even to provide information. There is work that needs to be done to get what we do and how we do it and who we are out into the community. I don't know if taking time up in a meeting to talk about what we do to people who are not going to be there is a useful way of moving forward.
Not Commissioner, Ms. Richards, we were talking about who supports the website for HRC. And I'm wondering if that's the same person, maybe who supports the other commissions and boards website?
I don't have that answer currently, but I can certainly look into this and find out how other commissions navigate or control and support their web pages and get back with the commission with that.
Yes, I'm just curious about the number of hits. How many times the various websites for the commissions, the boards, how many times are they being viewed?
All right, I can look into that and get this information back to you, Chair Smith.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Because, you know, as I was initially brainstorming on some of this, and I looked at the list of commissions, there were some commissions that I didn't have myself. And I'm a person that tried to stay aware and maintain awareness of things going on in the community and the city. But there are some commissions that I didn't even know existed. So that was also part of my motivation for exploring something along these lines here. But nothing invested from my part in regards to just wanted to get thoughts from others to determine whether or not it was something that would be worthwhile.
Okay. So we have not voted on it. So hopefully you got what you were enough for you to make a decision, Commissioner Jones.
Yeah, so at this point, I'll withdraw that, and you might see it again in another form as we work through our awareness plan. So at this point, this brings us to the final item on the agenda, and I would like to do a around the room before we prepare to depart today. So starting with Commissioner Kai, anything, last thoughts?
Other than to wish everybody a pleasant month until we meet again? No, I do not.
Okay, Commissioner Carey?
I just want to say that I'm willing to help with anything. If there is anything at all I can help with, please have someone give me a call.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, Commissioner Smith, Chairperson Smith.
Just thank you, Commissioner Jones, for leading the meeting tonight. And appreciate all of the commissioners who were available to get on the call for the meeting for March, as well as Ms. Richards. Be sure to thank Deputy City Manager, Mr. Tyus, again for being present and reinforce the invite to him and City Manager Gleason on a quarterly basis or whenever or sooner if they so desire. That's it.
Okay, so this brings us to everyone's, well, at least my favorite part of a meeting. Not this meeting, but any meeting that I'm in. So can we get a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Can we get a second?
I will second it.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Commissioner
Aye.
Smith?
Okay, so meeting is concluded at 5:59. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're very welcome. Thank you.